I know what it feels like when you wake up and nothing makes sense. Your heart might pound, your mind may spin, and you might feel a hollow ache in your chest. Have you ever asked yourself why you go through the same routine yet feel more lost each day? In this video, you will learn how to reconnect with yourself, define what matters, try one new thing, set clear short goals, and honor every small win. I'll share real actions you can try today without confusion or overwhelm. You will hear simple steps that many ignore, but all of us need right now. Imagine feeling a calm focus when before you felt chaos. Imagine finding a spark of purpose when you believed it was gone. If you're ready to stop drifting and start moving toward a life you want, keep watching. Your first step back to yourself starts now. Number 1, reconnect with yourself through mindful pauses each day. You know, there comes a time in everyone's life when you feel like you've lost your way. You wake up in the morning and something feels off. You go through your routine, but it doesn't move you. You sit with people, but you don't feel connected. You look at your work, your habits, even your reflection, and you wonder, here did I go? That feeling of being lost is real. And if you're feeling it right now, I want you to understand something important. You're not broken. You're just disconnected from yourself. See, we spend so much time doing. We run from task to task. We respond to calls, messages, responsibilities, expectations. And in that race, we stop noticing what's going on inside us. That's how people get lost. Not because they're weak, not because they failed, but because they stop checking in. They stop listening to themselves. So if you're in that place right now, the most powerful thing you can do, the smartest, the strongest thing is to pause, not to escape, not to run, just pause. And I mean really pause. Not for 5 seconds while you're scrolling on your phone, not for a few minutes while you're watching television. I mean a full stop, a moment where it's just you breathing, sitting still, and turning inward. I call it a mindful pause, a quiet reset in the middle of all the noise. Because if you want to reconnect with yourself, if you want to stop feeling lost, you have to get back in touch with who you are when everything else is quiet. Mindful pauses aren't complicated. You don't need candle. You don't need a mountain retreat. You don't even need silence around you. All you need is honesty and a few moments where you stop doing and start noticing. Ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? What have I been ignoring? What's been weighing on me that I haven't wanted to look at? These questions might not have immediate answers, but when you ask them consistently, the answers begin to show up, slowly at first, then more clearly. The truth is, most people never take time to be with themselves. They distract themselves with work, with noise, with drama, with social media, with other people's problems. Because it's easier to deal with everything out there than it is to face the confusion in here. But you can't find your way if you won't look at the map. And the map is inside you. That's why the pause matters. That's why this moment of stillness isn't weakness. It's the first real step to finding your way again. When I talk about taking mindful pauses each day, I mean creating a small but powerful practice. It could be 5 minutes in the morning before you pick up your phone. It could be a few moments at lunch when you just sit and breathe. It could be a quiet moment at night before you sleep, where you review the day and ask yourself, did I show up today as the person I want to be? These tiny pauses, if you build them into your day, they begin to reconnect the wires that got disconnected. They bring you back to yourself. You don't need to solve your whole life in one moment. You don't need to know exactly what's next. That's not what this is about. Reconnecting with yourself isn't about having all the answers. It's about making space to hear the answers when they come, because they will. They always do, but they don't shout. They whisper. And if your life is too loud, you'll miss them. Some people say they don't have time. They say life's too busy. But I want to tell you something that might sting a little. If you don't have 5 minutes a day to connect with yourself, you don't have a life. What you have is a schedule, a list of obligations, a string of tasks. But that's not living. That's reacting. And no one finds clarity by just reacting. You have to stop, reflect, and listen. You might feel uncomfortable when you pause at first. You might feel restless. You might feel sadness or frustration bubbling up. That's okay. That's part of reconnecting. It means your real self is coming back into the room. Don't push it away. Don't judge it. Just let it be. Let the feelings come. Let the truth surface. Because once you face what's really there, that's when you start to find yourself again. When you build this into a daily habit, it changes the way you live. You become more aware. You notice what triggers you. You start to hear your own inner voice. Clearer, louder, stronger. You stop needing everyone else's opinions to feel okay. You stop chasing things that don't matter. You begin to make better decisions. You begin to lead yourself. That's power. That's control. That's freedom. Most people wait for a big sign to show them the way forward. They wait for clarity to show up like lightning, but it rarely works like that. Clarity grows slowly, one quiet moment at a time. It grows when you stop pretending, when you stop rushing, and when you start paying attention to your own thoughts. It grows when you give yourself permission to feel what you've been ignoring. There's something else that happens. When you pause and reconnect, you start to remember who you used to be before the pressure, before the burnout, before the noise. You remember your values, your standards, your goals. And sometimes that's all it takes to shift everything. Just remembering who you are. Just realizing you've been acting out of habit, not out of truth. So the next time you feel lost, don't panic. Don't run to escape it. Sit with it, face it, name it, and take a mindful pause. Ask yourself the hard questions, feel the answers, and trust that you're not broken. You're just rebuilding. You're finding your way back to yourself, one pause at a time. This isn't theory. It works. It's not magic, but it feels like it when you stick with it. When you take a few minutes each day to just sit, breathe, and check in, you gain something more valuable than money or recognition. You gain inner clarity. And when you have that, you can face anything. You can change direction. You can rebuild. You can grow. You don't need to wait for tomorrow. You don't need to fix everything today. You just need to stop right now and give yourself the space to listen. No noise, no performance, just truth. And if you keep showing up for yourself in those moments, no matter how small, you'll find your way again. Not because someone told you where to go, but because you remembered you always had it in you. Number 2, define your priorities by listing what truly matters. You can't keep living your life chasing everything and ending up with nothing. If you feel like your days are slipping away and you're always exhausted but not fulfilled, then you're not broken. You're just unclear about what really matters. And that confusion, that's costing you your time, your energy, your peace. That quiet frustration you feel when the day ends and you wonder what you actually accomplished. That's not laziness. That's misalignment. That's what happens when you don't define your priorities. Most people are busy. Very few are effective. Because being busy doesn't mean you're moving forward. It might mean you're just spinning. Running on autopilot. Checking off to-do lists that don't change anything meaningful in your life. And that's the trap. You stay in motion so you don't have to think. You stay distracted so you don't have to choose. But let me tell you something straight. If you don't choose what matters, the world will choose for you. And the world doesn't care about your dreams. It only cares about your availability. You want to stop feeling lost? Then you've got to get brutally honest with yourself. What truly matters to you. Not what your friends think. Not what your boss expects. Not what looks good on social media. I'm talking about what really counts deep in your gut. What wakes you up. What gives your life meaning. What fills your chest with fire and your eyes with clarity. Because if you don't define it, you can't live it. Grab a pen and a piece of paper and start writing. Write down everything you've been spending your time on. Everything that's been pulling at your energy. Everything that feels like an obligation. And then ask this question. Does this move me toward the life I want? Or does it keep me stuck? If the answer isn't clear, that's your signal. You've got to sort through the noise. This isn't about productivity. It's not about getting more done. It's about doing what matters. Doing what aligns with your values. And if you don't know your values, you need to start there. What do you stand for? What are the non-negotiables in your life? What kind of person do you want to be remembered as? When you can answer those questions, decisions start getting simpler. Because everything that doesn't match those values gets dropped. Too many people are afraid to say no. They don't want to disappoint others. They don't want to let anyone down. But the truth is, if you keep saying yes to things that don't matter, you're saying no to your own life. And that's not noble. That's not generous. That's self-abandonment. You've got one life. You don't get to redo this. So stop wasting energy on things that pull you away from who you want to become. Now here's where the shift happens. When you define your priorities, your world gets clearer. You stop waking up dreading your day. You stop getting caught in meaningless arguments. You stop chasing goals that don't fulfill you. Instead, you wake up with direction. You speak with purpose. You act with confidence. You protect your time like it's your most valuable currency. Ask yourself, what are the top 3 things that matter most to me right now? And then ask, are my actions reflecting those things? If not, you got work to do. You need to restructure your day. You need to cut things out. You need to start protecting your mental space, because without clarity, you drift. And drifting never leads you to where you want to go. You got to take full responsibility for your focus. Stop blaming distractions. Stop blaming your environment. Own your choices. If your phone is stealing your attention, put it down. If people around you keep pulling you in the wrong direction, limit their access. If your habits are numbing your drive, replace them. This is your life. No one else is going to take control for you. Start small. Spend 10 minutes each morning writing down what matters most to you today. Not a full to-do list. Just the 1 or 2 things that, if you gave your best energy to them, would move you closer to the life you want. And then follow through. Do them first. Make them the priority. Everything else can wait. Because when you get the most important things done, everything else gets easier. Here's the psychological truth. Your brain will follow what you repeatedly focus on. If you spend all day reacting to everyone else's demands, your brain learns that your life isn't in your control. But if you begin your day with clarity, if you start acting on your priorities, your brain begins to believe that you're in charge. That's where real self-respect comes from. That's where confidence is born. From doing the things that matter and doing them on purpose. And don't fall into the trap of thinking this has to be some big dramatic change. It's not about quitting everything and starting fresh. It's about making better choices, moment by moment. It's about making one honest decision at a time. Say no to the meeting you don't need to be in. Say yes to the time block for working on your dream. Turn off the screen and go for the walk that clears your head. Listen to your body. Trust your instincts. Make space for the things that give you life. Sometimes you'll feel resistance. You'll feel fear when you say no. You'll feel discomfort when you focus on your goals, while others are coasting. That's normal. That's what happens when you break old patterns. But that discomfort is a sign you're growing. Keep going. Push through it. Get used to choosing yourself, not just once, but every single day. Because when you make yourself a priority, you become someone you're proud of. You weren't made to live overwhelmed. You weren't meant to spend your days scattered and burned out. You were built to live with vision, with discipline, with purpose. But none of that can happen if your life is full of the wrong things. You have to clear space. You have to take inventory. You have to get honest and define what truly matters. And then have the courage to live it. So start now, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Get out a sheet of paper, write the words "what matters most to me," and answer it without filters, without worrying about what others will think. Just your truth, and then circle the top 3. Make them the center of your life. Build your schedule around them. Let everything else fall away. This is how you take your life back. This is how you stop feeling lost. You don't find clarity by doing more. You find it by doing what counts, by cutting the noise, by choosing meaning over pressure, by aligning your actions with your values. That's how people change. That's how direction is born. And if you're willing to live this way, not perfectly but honestly, you will feel it. The shift, the strength, the peace, the sense of being grounded in a world that's constantly spinning. You'll look back and see that the moment you got clear on what mattered was the moment you started living with power. Number 3, cultivate new habits by taking consistent, small daily steps. You'll never change your life until you change what you do every single day. If you feel like life keeps repeating itself and you're stuck in the same cycle, same thoughts, same struggles, same outcomes, it's not because you're weak. It's because your habits haven't changed. And if your habits don't change, nothing else will. That's the truth a lot of people don't want to hear. They want the breakthrough. They want the transformation. But they're still trying to fit it into the same broken routines. That's not how it works. If you want a different life, you need different patterns. Change doesn't come by waiting for the right moment. It comes when you start doing one thing right, one day at a time. You don't need to do it all at once. In fact, that's the mistake most people make. They try to flip their entire world overnight. But real growth doesn't happen in a rush. It happens in the small daily choices, the ones no one claps for, the ones that feel boring, the ones that require patience. Those are the ones that build the new you. The reason people feel lost is because they've stopped trusting their ability to move forward. They've built a life around distraction, around reaction, around surviving the day. But you don't need a full reinvention to change your direction. You need one solid habit, one thing that starts reshaping how you think, how you act, how you see yourself. And you need to do it every single day. Start with something simple. Wake up and make your bed. That's not about cleanliness. It's about structure. It's a signal to your brain that you are showing up for yourself. Or take 10 minutes each morning to sit in silence. That's not about doing nothing. It's about building mental space. Drink a glass of water when you get up. That's not about hydration. It's about self-respect. See, the habit itself is small, but the message it sends to your mind is huge. It says, I matter. My actions matter. My future matters. Every small step you take in the right direction gives you back a piece of control. And when you feel in control, you stop feeling lost. You stop depending on motivation to carry you. Because habits don't need motivation. Habits run on systems, on consistency, on trust. You don't question whether you'll brush your teeth. You just do it. That's where you want to get with your habits. Not thinking about them, not debating them. Just doing them. Pick one new habit and commit to doing it for the next 7 days. Not forever. Just a week. And don't pick something massive. Pick something doable. Read 5 pages of a book. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. Take a walk around the block. Do 1 push-up. Call a friend and ask how they're doing. Whatever it is, make it small. Small enough that your brain can't come up with an excuse to skip it. And here's the secret most people miss. The power isn't in the habit. It's in the identity it creates. When you do something good for yourself each day, you start to see yourself differently. You begin to think, maybe I can change. Maybe I'm not stuck. Maybe I'm not as far behind as I thought. And that little shift in identity changes how you show up in every area of your life. When you build new habits, you're not just changing your routine. You're rebuilding your trust in yourself. You're proving to yourself that you can follow through, that you don't need to rely on willpower or energy or the perfect schedule. You just need a reason, and that reason has to be clear. What are you working toward? What do you want your life to look like 6 months from now? What kind of person do you want to be in the eyes of the people who matter most to you? Get that image clear, write it down, feel it, then ask yourself what small steps you'd have to take every day to become that person. Not huge goals, not grand changes, just the daily actions that, if done consistently, would lead you straight to the life you want. That's how habits become a lifestyle. That's how direction replaces confusion. That's how action replaces doubt. You will have days where you don't feel like doing it. You'll be tired. You'll be distracted. You'll have other things calling for your attention. But that's when it matters most. Because when you act in alignment with your values on the hard days, you begin to build resilience. And resilience is what gets you through when life tests you. And it will test you. But when your habits are solid, when your foundation is strong, those tests don't break you. They reveal your strength. Don't worry about speed. Worry about direction. If you're moving 1 step forward every day, you're winning. And if you stumble, don't quit. Adjust. Learn. Keep going. Because failure isn't the opposite of progress. It's part of it. But giving up, that's the only thing that can truly set you back. So don't give up. Keep showing up, even when no one's watching, especially then. And here's something else. Habits don't only build discipline. They build hope. Every time you do something good for yourself, your mind takes note. You feel a little more in control, a little more capable, a little more alive. That's what builds momentum. Not huge wins, not big changes, just the quiet, steady practice of showing up for yourself over and over again. Look around at anyone you admire. The ones who've built something real, the ones who speak with clarity, the ones who seem grounded. They didn't get there by accident. They got there by building habits that aligned with their vision. Day after day, week after week, year after year. That's the truth. No shortcuts, just small daily commitments that built their future. So don't overthink it. Don't wait for the right mood or the right time. Just start right now. Choose one habit, make it yours, track it, commit to it, and build on it. Because when you stack good days, they turn into good weeks. Good weeks turn into strong months, and strong months shape your entire life. The most powerful people aren't the ones who do the most. They're the ones who stay consistent with the things that matter. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do the right things repeatedly. That's how change becomes permanent. That's how progress becomes inevitable. So if you feel lost, stop trying to find the big answer. Start building small wins. Build a habit that anchors your day. Build a routine that supports your growth. Build trust in yourself by doing what you say you'll do. That's how you find your way again. Not by waiting, not by hoping, but by moving one small, clear, committed step at a time. You've got the time. You've got the ability. Now you need to decide. Are you going to keep waiting for clarity? Or are you going to build it through action? Your future self is watching, and they're hoping you start today. Number 4, challenge negative thoughts by writing them down visibly. If you knew how much damage your unchecked thoughts were doing to your future, you'd never let another one go unchallenged. The way you speak to yourself in private shapes how you show up in the world. And most people are losing that battle without even knowing it. They've been listening to the same inner voice for so long, telling them they're not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough, that it starts sounding like truth. But here's what you need to know. Just because a thought shows up doesn't mean it's right. It just means it's familiar. And familiarity is not the same as truth. Every time you say to yourself, I can't do this, you weaken your potential. Every time you think, I'm not ready, you feed doubt. Every time you silently repeat, I always mess things up, you reinforce a version of yourself that no longer deserves your loyalty. These are not harmless thoughts. These are instructions. And your mind follows instruction. That's why the battle for your life begins in your thoughts. If you want to take your power back, you've got to stop negotiating with your negative thoughts in silence. You've got to drag them out into the open and face them. Write them down. Look at them. Don't hide from them. Don't keep them locked in your head where they grow unchecked. See them on paper. See how irrational they are when exposed. Because what you write down, you separate from. What you confront, you can control. But what you avoid, that controls you. When I was younger, I thought I had to believe everything I thought. I didn't realize my brain could lie to me. I didn't know that most of my inner dialogue had been shaped by fear, by insecurity, by years of subtle programming. No one had ever told me, you don't have to believe every thought you think. And when I learned that, my whole life changed because I realized I could challenge it. I could talk back to it. I could write it down and say, is this really true? And most of the time, it wasn't. You've got to see your thinking patterns clearly before you can break them. If a thought comes up that makes you feel small, heavy, discouraged, write it down, not just in your mind, on paper. Be honest. Capture it in the raw form it shows up. It might sound like, I'll never be successful, or no one really cares about me, or I always fail when I try. Don't dress it up. Just get it out. And then next to it, write, is this absolutely true? And answer that with the same honesty. Here's what happens when you write it out. You create risk-ease between you and the thought. You stop identifying with it. You begin to realize that the thought is not who you are. It's just a mental habit, and all habits can be changed. Most people live under the weight of invisible beliefs, and beliefs don't change until they're challenged. If you've been telling yourself the same self-defeating stories for years, they're going to feel real, but that doesn't make them facts. It just makes them practiced. You've been rehearsing weakness. You've been repeating fear, and every repetition makes it stronger until you disrupt it. And disruption starts with visibility. This is not about writing a journal entry and hoping everything gets better. It's about using your mind like a tool. It's about becoming the observer of your own thinking instead of being the victim of it. It's about refusing to let your life be directed by thoughts that don't serve you. Because if you don't get conscious about your thinking will shape your life in ways you didn't choose. Think about this. Would you let someone follow you around all day, whispering in your ear that you're not enough? Would you let someone criticize every move you make, belittle your dreams, mock your efforts? Of course not. So why allow your own thoughts to do it? Why accept the voice in your head when it treats you worse than your worst enemy would? There's power in the pen. Because when you see the thought written down, it becomes easier to challenge. You can say, where did this come from? Who taught me to think this way? Is this my voice or someone else's I adopted along the way? And once you know that, you can start rewriting. You can replace the lie with a new truth, a real one that empowers you, not limits you. For example, you might write, I always fail at everything I try. Then ask, is that true? Really? Everything? No, of course not. You've succeeded before. You've shown up when it was hard. You've made progress others didn't see. So rewrite it. I've faced failure, but I've also grown stronger. I'm still learning, still trying, and that's a sign of progress. The goal isn't to lie to yourself. It's to tell yourself the full truth. Knitted thoughts are always partial truths. They highlight fear, but ignore strength. They amplify doubt, but mute resilience. They don't account for your potential. That's why they're so dangerous when left alone. This isn't about positive thinking. It's about accurate thinking. It's about clarity. And clarity comes when you stop letting your thoughts swirl around in your head and start putting them where you can see them, test them, and change them. When you get your thoughts out of the shadows and into the light, they lose their grip. They can't bully you anymore because you're no longer reacting to them. You're responding with strength, with reason, with new beliefs that align with your future. And don't expect perfection. This is a daily process. You might have to write down the same thought 10 times before it starts to weaken, but that's okay. Every time you confront it, you take a little bit of its power away. And with every word you write, you build a new version of yourself, one that isn't ruled by fear, but guided by awareness. If you're struggling right now, if you feel like your own mind is working against you, just know you're not broken. You're human, and your mind is not your enemy. It's just been running an old program for too long. The key is to interrupt the pattern, to become the editor of your thoughts, not just the reader. You can't heal what you won't face, and you can't change what you won't challenge. So face the thoughts, challenge the lies, write them down, see them clear, and then replace them with something stronger, something truer, something you'd actually say to someone you love. Because at the end of the day, the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Make it count, make it honest, make it powerful. Now take action. Get a notebook, open a fresh page, write down the thought that's been holding you back the most. Stare it in the face, question it, rewrite it, and tomorrow do it again. Not because you're broken, but because you're rebuilding. And every word you write is one step closer to the strength, clarity, and peace you've been looking for. Don't wait. Start today. Your future is watching. Number 5. Embrace uncertainty by experimenting with one new activity. You won't grow if you only do what feels safe. The truth is, the longer you wait for certainty, the longer you'll wait for your life to begin. Too many people spend years trapped in routines that no longer challenge them, stuck in patterns that drain them. Not because they lack potential, but because they fear the unknown. And I'm here to tell you, the unknown is not your enemy. It's your greatest opportunity, because everything you want, everything meaningful, everything that can give your life new energy, it's waiting outside your comfort zone. The only question is, are you willing to take one unfamiliar step? Most people think they need a full plan before they can take action. They want to know how things will unfold, how it will end, how it will feel. But that's not how life works. Life doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards movement. It rewards the person who decides to try something new, even if they're unsure, even if they feel nervous, even if they don't have all the answers. Because trying something new isn't about success. It's about disrupting the pattern of stuckness. And if you're feeling lost right now, if you're struggling to find direction, that's the pattern you need to break. When you experiment with one new activity, just one, you open a door that wasn't visible before. You meet a part of yourself you hadn't met yet. And that part might be exactly who you need to become to move forward. But you'll never discover that by thinking your way into it. You only discover it by doing, by testing, by putting yourself in a new environment and watching how you respond. It doesn't have to be some grand adventure. This isn't about skydiving or climbing mountains. It's about doing something your current version of yourself hasn't done before. Take a different route to work. Sign up for a class. Volunteer somewhere you've never been. Start learning a skill that has nothing to do with your job. Talk to someone outside your usual circle. It might feel small, but the psychological impact is huge. Because when you try something unfamiliar, you send a signal to your brain. I'm willing to grow. I'm willing to stretch. I'm not stuck. That single message can start a ripple effect that changes your entire mindset. You don't have to feel ready. In fact, if you're waiting to feel ready, you'll never move. Readiness is a byproduct of action. You take the step, then the confidence follows. Not the other way around. That's how you build momentum. By doing the thing before you feel completely comfortable. And that's why most people stay stuck. Because they confuse discomfort with danger. They think if I feel uncertain, it must be wrong. But uncertainty is not a red light. It's a green light telling you you're stepping into something new. You've got to learn to be okay with not knowing how it will turn out. Because here's the truth. Most of the best things in life come out of situations where you had no guarantee, no perfect timing, no map. But you tried anyway. You moved forward anyway. You gave yourself permission to explore. And that's when things shift. That's when new opportunities show up. That's when life surprises you. The reason people stay stuck is because they become too familiar with their pain. It becomes part of their identity. They start saying things like, this is just the way I am, or nothing ever changes. But that's not the way you are. That's the way you've been. And the way you've been is not the end of your story. You are not obligated to keep repeating a life that no longer excites you. So what's something you've been curious about but never pursued? What's one thing you've thought about trying but always talked yourself out of? Write it down. Don't overthink it. Just pick something and start. Maybe it's creative. Maybe it's physical. Maybe it's social. Doesn't matter. What matters is that it challenges your current pattern. Because every time you disrupt your routine, you disrupt your self-doubt. You prove to yourself that you are more adaptable, more capable, more alive than you've been acting. And let me be clear, this is not about distraction. It's not about running from your problems. It's about expanding your identity. When you try new things, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop defining yourself by your past. You start defining yourself by your potential. And that change in identity is the most powerful shift you can make. Because when your view of yourself changes, everything else follows. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't even need clarity. You just need to move. One step, one decision, one new experience. And you do it not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, but to grow. Because growth doesn't come from thinking about change. It comes from choosing change. Again and again. Think about how much of your life you've lived on autopilot. Same conversations, same routines, same thoughts circling in your head. What has that gotten you? If you feel like you're standing still, it's probably because your life has become too predictable. You need a little chaos, a little unpredictability, a little adventure, not to destabilize you, but to awaken you. To remind you that there's more to you than you've been accessing. And here's the magic. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to see 5 steps ahead. Just one. That's all it takes to break the cycle. One new experience. One moment of courage. One decision to act. Even if your voice shakes. That one choice could introduce you to a new friend. A new passion. A new path. But you'll never know if you don't try. You've been asking for clarity, for motivation, for change. Well, this is it, right here. This is your invitation to do something you've never done. Not someday, today. Not when you feel ready now. Because now is when life is happening. If you don't take part in it, you'll keep waking up to the same version of yourself, wondering why everything still feels the same. So do something different. Walk into the unknown. Let yourself be a beginner again. Fail if you have to. Laugh at yourself if you must. But don't sit on the sidelines of your own life. Don't let fear write your story. Let courage write the next page. Even if the words are messy. Even if you don't know where it's going. That's what makes it real. That's what makes it yours. The people who grow, who evolve, who light up a room, they're not the ones who waited for the perfect plan. They're the ones who said yes to something new. And they kept saying yes, over and over. That's how they became who they are. And that's how you'll become who you're meant to be. So here's your challenge. Pick one new activity this week. 1. Commit to it. Show up fully. Feel the nerves. Feel the resistance. And do it anyway. Then notice how you feel afterward. Notice the spark, the energy, the pride. That's your future calling. And all it needs is for you to answer. Number 6, strengthen your focus by setting clear, realistic, short goals. If your mind feels scattered and your days feel wasted, it's not because you're lazy. It's because your focus is bleeding out into too many directions at once. And the reason that's happening is simple. You don't have clear, short goals that direct your energy. Most people walk through life overwhelmed, not because they lack time, but because they lack clarity. You can work 12 hours a day and still feel like you're getting nowhere if your actions aren't tied to a solid, specific aim. And that ends now. When life feels heavy and you feel lost, don't try to fix everything. Don't aim for 10 breakthroughs at once. Don't wait for a grand vision to hit you. Start small, but start with focus. Pick one thing, one clear, doable, real goal that matters today. One step you can measure, one win you can see. Because when you see progress, even small progress, your mind wakes up again. You feel alive. You start to believe in yourself again. You don't need to plan the next 5 years. You don't even need to plan the next 5 months. You just need to control the next 5 days. What are you building this week? What are you finishing? What are you tracking? That's what sharpens your focus. Not dreaming, not waiting, not scrolling, doing. Here's something nobody tells you. The most successful people you see didn't get there because of big, perfect plans. They got there because they took short, focused sprints and stacked them over time. They kept their attention on one step, not 50. They asked, what can I do today that moves me closer? And they did that again and again. Clarity, not intensity, builds momentum. Because intensity fades, but clarity builds habit. And habits shape identity. If you're lost right now, I want you to stop trying to fix your entire life. Stop thinking about what went wrong or what might go wrong. Instead, grab a piece of paper and write down one clear, short-term goal. Make it so specific that a 5-year-old could understand it. Not be healthier, but walk for 20 minutes before breakfast for 5 days. Not be more productive, but finish writing my resume by Friday. Not be happier, but call my brother and talk for 15 minutes today. Make it real, make it exact, and make it short. The human mind responds to structure. When you give your brain a real target and a time frame, it switches from survival mode to solution mode. Suddenly, your brain starts looking for ways to make it happen. You feel less foggy, you procrastinate less. You stop asking, what should I do? Because now you know. That's what focus gives you, power. Not loud, noisy power. Quiet, certain power. The kind of power that builds confidence because you're actually following through. You see, we're wired for completion. Every time you complete a goal, no matter how small, your brain releases a chemical reward. That's not some theory. That's psychology. It's how we're built. So when you keep setting vague goals or goals that are too big to track, you rob yourself of that reward. You never feel finished. You always feel behind. That's not because you're broken. It's because your system is broken. And the way you fix it is by making your goals smaller, tighter, and more visible. Most people confuse short goals with small dreams. They're not the same. A short goal is a stepping stone, a confidence builder. You stack enough of them, and the big things take care of themselves. But if you ignore the small steps, you'll keep staring at the mountain and never move. So stop looking up at everything you haven't done. Look straight ahead, pick a point, and walk. The other reason short goals work so well is because they don't scare you. If your goal overwhelms you, you won't do it. You'll freeze. You'll find excuses. You'll tell yourself you're not ready. But when your goal is clear and realistic, something inside you shifts. You feel capable again. You trust yourself again. That's what gets the fire going. Not motivation, but movement. If you're trying to rebuild your focus right now, then your job is not to prove anything to the world. Your job is to prove something to yourself, that you can keep a promise to you, that you can decide on something and follow through. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to post it. You just have to do it. That's how focus becomes your new normal. Not by reading books, not by watching endless videos, but by deciding what matters now and putting your feet on the ground to chase it. There's a quiet power in short wins. They don't scream. They don't go viral, but they work. Every time you hit a small goal, your self-worth inches forward. Your self-respect goes up, and the person you're becoming starts to take shape in front of your eyes. Not because everything changed, but because you changed. Your habits changed. Your choices changed. And focus was the key. If you keep waiting to feel ready, you'll never start. But if you set a clear short goal, you'll create readiness by moving. That's the real secret. Action creates clarity. Clarity fuels focus, and focus creates results. That's how you take your life back. Not by waiting for permission, but by setting targets you believe in and hitting them one by one. So what's it going to be for you? What's your goal today? What's one thing you can and finish before your head hits the pillow? Don't make it complicated. Just make it real. Write it down. Set a time. Then go do it. Watch what happens when you stop thinking and start acting. Watch how different you feel when you wake up tomorrow, knowing you didn't waste another day. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about goals. It's about identity. Every time you follow through on something real, you start seeing yourself as a person who moves, who acts, who builds. And that's where everything changes. Not in your circumstances, but in your self-image. And when that changes, your whole life starts to bend in a new direction. So don't wait for the perfect plan. Don't wait for the fear to go away. Just set the goal. Make it short. Make it real. Make it now, and give yourself the chance to win. Because you're not as lost as you think. You just need something real to focus on. Something you can reach. Something that pulls you forward. Start now. Pick the first goal. Prove to yourself that you can do it. Let that proof build your belief. Then set the next one. Then the next. Stack those wins. And don't stop until your days feel like they matter again. That's how you reclaim your direction. One short goal at a time. Number 7. Build connections by reaching out for honest, heartfelt conversations. When life feels like it's closing in and you don't know who you are anymore, the most powerful thing you can do is talk to someone and be real. Not the kind of talk that masks your pain with small talk and surface answers, but a real, raw, honest conversation that pulls the weight off your chest and reminds you that you're not alone. Because sometimes the breakthrough doesn't come from within. Sometimes it comes from opening up. You don't need to have the answers before you speak. You don't need to fix yourself before you reach out. What you need is the courage to say, this is what I'm going through. That moment of truth, that moment when you allow someone into your world, is the beginning of healing. It's not weakness. It's strength. Most people walk through life disconnected, not because they want to be alone, but because they're afraid of being judged. They're afraid of not being understood. But you don't build connection by being perfect. You build it by being real. I want you to think about one person you trust. Someone who makes you feel safe. Someone who listens without interrupting. Reach out to them. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. Call them. Text them. Show up. And when you do, don't wear the mask. Don't talk about the weather or the news. Talk about you. Talk about what's been heavy on your mind. Talk about the questions that keep you up at night. Because when you do that, when you speak from the heart, something incredible happens. You stop pretending. You stop hiding. And you start remembering who you are. The pain of isolation is not just emotional. It's biological. We are built for connection. We're wired to feel safe when we're seen. When we share what's real, the brain releases chemicals that calm the nervous system. That's not motivational fluff. That's neuroscience. And it's why a heartfelt conversation can shift your entire mental state. It doesn't solve every problem, but it reminds you that you're still human, that you still matter, and that someone still cares. We live in a world where everyone is talking, but few are listening. You scroll past 1,000 posts, but none of them know the truth about you. That's why conversations matter. Not likes, not followers, not views, but one-on-one honest talk. The kind that doesn't need filters, the kind that doesn't end in advice, but just understanding. That kind of connection builds strength from the inside out. You got stories inside you that you haven't told, not because they don't matter, but because you haven't felt safe enough to speak them. But those stories are waiting to be released. Because the moment you speak what's true, you break the chains of shame. You start to accept yourself. And when you accept yourself, you begin to rebuild. So many people suffer in silence because they think nobody would understand. But here's what I've learned in all my years talking to people. Most folks are struggling with the same things. They just don't say it out loud. Fear, loneliness, doubt, regret. These things don't make you weak. They make you human. And the more you bury them, the heavier they become. But when you share them with someone you trust, the weight lifts. Not all at once, but enough for you to breathe again. If you feel like you've drifted away from who you are, then maybe the first step isn't fixing anything. Maybe it's connecting. Maybe it's picking up the phone and saying, I don't have it all together, but I needed to talk. That one sentence could change everything, because there's healing in being heard. There's power in being known, and there's freedom in being honest. I know it's not easy. I know it takes guts to open up, but you've already tried keeping it in. You've already tried carrying it alone. And it's wearing you down. So give yourself something different. Give yourself the gift of connection. You don't have to pour everything out. Just start small. One truth, one feeling, one step. That's enough to begin. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait to be stronger. Reach out now. Reach out while your voice is shaky. Reach out while the pain is fresh. Because the person on the other end might be carrying something too. And maybe, just maybe, your honesty will give them permission to be honest too. That's how healing spreads. That's how connection deepens. That's how we get through life. Not by being perfect, but by being together. You're not weak for needing someone. You're brave for saying so. You're not broken for wanting support. You're wise for seeking it. The ones who speak up are the ones who grow. The ones who connect are the ones who rise. And you can rise too. Not tomorrow. Today. Take a deep breath. Think about who you miss. Think about who you've drifted from. Think about who always made you feel seen. Reach out to them. Say something real. Don't overthink it. Just be you. That's what connection is. It's not polished. It's not perfect. It's human. In the end, it won't be the things you said to look smart or strong that will change your life. It'll be the things you said when you were vulnerable, when you were raw, when you were real. That's when people lean in. That's when relationships grow roots. And that's when your heart starts to heal. So if you feel lost right now, don't go looking for a map. Look for a person, a voice, a moment of truth. Because you're not supposed to figure everything out alone. You're supposed to live connected. You're supposed to be part of something bigger than yourself. And that starts with one conversation. Make it today. Speak from the heart. Let yourself be seen, and you'll realize something powerful. You were never as alone as you thought. The people who care are waiting. All you have to do is reach out. That's how you rebuild your sense of direction. Not by having all the answers, but by being willing to share the question. And when you do that, when you choose connection over silence, you begin a new chapter. One built on truth, one built on trust, one built on the strength of being fully human. So go. Start that conversation. Make it count. And let that be the first step back to yourself. Number 8. Measure progress by noting even the tiniest forward-moving actions. If you think you're stuck, it's probably because you're only measuring your progress by giant leaps. When in truth, your life is shifting every time you take even the smallest step forward. Stop waiting for a big win to feel proud. Stop telling yourself that little efforts don't count. Progress is not a dramatic event. It's a quiet build, a slow but certain movement in the right direction. And if you don't start honoring the small wins, you'll never feel like you're getting anywhere. You want change. You want growth. But it feels far away, doesn't it? You look at how much still needs to be done and the mountain feels too high. But what if I told you the mountain isn't your enemy? Your measurement is you keep telling yourself, I haven't done enough. Not because it's true, but because you haven't been paying attention to the inches you've already moved. You've forgotten that progress doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, and if you're not listening, you'll miss it. You got out of bed today when you didn't feel like it. That's progress. You answered the phone when your mind was heavy. That's progress. You wrote one sentence. You made one phone call. You went on one walk. That's not nothing. That's not insignificant. That's movement. And movement means you're not stuck. You're not failing. You're not falling behind. You're growing, one action at a time. Most people never change because they keep waiting to feel different. They want to wake up one day and suddenly be motivated. But that's not how it works. The feeling comes after the action. When you do something, even something small, your brain takes note. It builds momentum. It begins to shift the story you tell about yourself. But if you keep discounting the small stuff, you'll never feel that shift. You'll keep convincing yourself that you're the same, and you're not. You're evolving. You're rebuilding, but you've got to see it. That's why you have to start measuring the tiny wins. Not because they look impressive to the world, but because they prove something important, that you're still moving, that you're still in the fight, that you haven't given up on yourself. And once you recognize that, something changes in your energy. You begin to believe again. You begin to expect more. And belief, true belief, is what unlocks possibility. It's easy to admire someone who's miles ahead of you, but what you don't see are the years of uncelebrated effort. The small shifts that didn't go viral. The days they barely made it through but still showed up anyway. You don't need to see big changes today. You just need to move your story forward by one paragraph, one action, one choice. That's enough to get traction. And traction beats perfection every time. Think about what's been weighing on your heart lately. Maybe it's a dream that feels too big, a habit you've failed to break, a fear that keeps showing up. Don't try to conquer it all today. Ask yourself, what's the smallest thing I can do to move through this? Maybe it's writing one line in a journal. Maybe it's cleaning one drawer. Maybe it's drinking one glass of water. Those moments matter more than you realize because they shift your focus from what you can't control to what you can do right now. Your mind craves completion. When you do something you said you'd do, even something tiny, you earn self-respect. That's not a fluffy idea. It's neuroscience. Every micro-win reinforces your identity. And identity is everything. If you see yourself as someone who follows through, you'll keep building. If you don't, you'll keep stalling. So train your brain to notice every effort. Every time you said yes to the right thing or no to the wrong one. Every time you showed up, even slightly. That's not a coincidence. That's character. And it compounds. Don't wait for applause. Don't wait for permission. You've got to become your own witness. You've got to track your growth, even if no one else sees it. Write it down. Mark it. Celebrate it. Because when you do, something inside of you wakes up. You start to feel momentum. And momentum is powerful. It makes you want to do the next right thing and the next until you look up one day and realize you're not where you started anymore. You're somewhere new. You've become someone stronger. The truth is, people give up not because they're weak, but because they think their efforts don't matter. But the tiniest act, repeated consistently, holds more power than one dramatic burst of effort that fades in a week. You're not stuck because you're failing. You're stuck because you haven't been giving yourself credit. You're stuck because you've forgotten that every step forward, no matter how small, is evidence that you are changing. So if you're feeling lost today, don't try to turn your life around in an hour. Don't get overwhelmed by everything you haven't done. Instead, pause. Look back. Think of one thing, just one you've done recently, that moved you in the right direction. Did you speak up when you usually stay silent? Did you say no to something that drained you? Did you try something new? Those moments are gold. They are proof. They are progress. Write them down. Track them. Look at them every morning if you have to. Let them remind you that the journey isn't always about leaps. It's about accumulation. About stacking those tiny moments until you build a new life brick by brick. That's how you win. That's how you evolve. And if nobody told you this yet, I see the effort. I see the quiet ways you're trying. I see how hard it is to keep going when the results don't show up right away. But this is your reminder. They are showing up, just not all at once. Stay the course. Measure the inches. The progress is real. The change is happening. Now it's your turn. What's one small thing you did today that made you better? What's one shift, one choice, one forward move? Acknowledge it. Let it count. Don't dismiss it just because it wasn't loud. If it moved you closer to the life you want, it matters. Start measuring differently. Start honoring your effort, and you'll start seeing just how powerful you really are. Because you're not waiting for progress. You're making it. One small move at a time. And that's enough. That's everything. Keep going. Keep building. Keep becoming. You're closer than you think. Number 9, ignite passion by dedicating time to meaningful daily activities. If you want to feel alive again, you have to start doing the things that light you up. Not tomorrow, not next month, today. The truth is, life loses meaning when your days are filled with activities that feel like nothing. You wake up, you go through the motions, and before you know it, another week has gone by, and you don't feel any closer to the life you want. That's not because you're lazy or broken. It's because you've stopped doing things that give you a reason to wake up excited. You've stopped giving your time to what matters to you. Most people don't lose passion because they're tired. They lose it because they've buried the parts of themselves that used to feel something. Maybe it was art. Maybe it was building. Maybe it was learning. But somewhere along the way, those things started to feel optional, like luxuries you could no longer afford. So you cut them out. You told yourself it was more important to focus on what's practical, what's urgent. But now here you are, functioning, surviving, and yet feeling like something is missing. That feeling is your soul asking for meaning. You can't live on autopilot and expect to feel fulfilled. You can't keep handing your energy to things that drain you and then wonder why you feel empty at the end of the day. You have to take back your time. Not all of it, just a little of it. Just enough to do one thing each day that makes you feel connected, that makes you feel alive, that makes you feel you. Because when you do, everything else changes. Your energy shifts. Your focus sharpens. Your self-worth grows. Not because your life magically got easier, but because you finally started living it with intention. Maybe it's reading for 10 minutes in the morning. Maybe it's playing the piano for 20 minutes at night. Maybe it's stepping outside to breathe and watch the sky. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be yours. Because when you do things that align with your heart, you start to remember who you are underneath the noise. And that memory, that connection to self, is what fuels passion. Passion isn't some lightning bolt from the sky. It's a fire that grows every time you feed it. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment to chase it. You just need to make the moment, choose it, build it into your routine, put it on the calendar like it matters. Because it does. If you don't carve out time for what fills you, your time will keep getting eaten by what empties you. And if you keep pushing what matters to the edge, you'll keep feeling disconnected from your own life. Think about your day, not in general terms. Look at it clearly. Where does your time go? What are you giving your hours to? How much of it is spent reacting to other people's needs? Answering emails, sitting in traffic, scrolling, numbing, avoiding. Now ask yourself this. Where is your space in all that? Where are the things that feed your spirit, that make you feel excited, curious, joyful, alive? If you can't name them, that's your signal. That's the indicator that you need to make a change. Not a massive overhaul, just one new commitment, one meaningful action each day. Because one act of purpose done consistently is enough to shift the entire tone of your life. You don't need more hours in the day. You need more life in your hours. There's something you used to love, something that made you feel unstoppable. You might have let it go because of time or pressure or judgment, but it's still there, waiting for you. That thing, that activity, that outlet, it's not just a hobby. It's a gateway to your energy. It reconnects you to passion, and passion is not a bonus. It's the engine that drives your purpose, your clarity, your strength. When you start to prioritize what's meaningful, even for a few minutes a day, your mind stops racing in 1,000 directions. You stop feeling like you're spinning. You start moving with purpose. You start focusing on what you can control. And that kind of focus doesn't just get you results. It gives you power. You begin to see progress, not just in your work, but in your spirit. You feel it in your chest. You feel it in your pace. You walk differently. You speak with more conviction because you're no longer lost in the noise. You've come home to yourself. Most people live waiting for motivation to appear, but motivation doesn't appear. It's created. It's built in the quiet moments when you choose to engage with something that matters, even if it's small, even if it seems silly. If it's meaningful to you, it counts. And the more you give space to that activity, the more it energizes everything else. Start today, right now. Ask yourself, what is one thing I can do that feels meaningful? Not to impress anyone, not to meet a deadline, but to feel alive inside. Then do it. Make it a non-negotiable. Make it part of your identity. And when tomorrow comes, do it again. Keep showing up for what matters. Keep choosing yourself. Keep investing in the moments that refill your cup. Because passion isn't found. It's chosen. It's protected. It's grown through repetition and care. And when you start building your day around that energy, instead of trying to squeeze it in last, you stop waiting for joy. You start living in it. And this part matters. Don't keep it private. Talk about the things that matter to you. Share your joy. Let others see the spark in your eyes when you talk about that thing you love. Because passion is contagious. And in a world full of noise, someone has to remind others what it looks like to care. Be that reminder. You want to wake up excited again. Dedicate time to what lights you up. You want to stop feeling lost. Start showing up for what brings you home. Even if it's small. Especially when it's small. That's the key to building a life that feels like yours again. That's how you reignite the fire. So don't wait. Don't overthink. Don't ask for permission. Give yourself the space to live with meaning, even in small moments. Because when your actions align with your values, life starts to feel clear again. Your path may not be fully mapped out, but your next step will be. And with every step fueled by passion, you'll realize you're not lost anymore. You're just beginning. Number 10, celebrate small victories by honoring every single personal win. You've come farther than you think. You just haven't been giving yourself credit for it. We live in a world that constantly pushes the next big goal, the next achievement, the next level of success. And while that can drive progress, it can also make people blind to the small wins that are building real change every single day. The danger is, when you don't acknowledge your progress, your mind starts to believe that you're failing, even when you're growing. Celebrating small victories is not about ego. It's about reinforcing progress. It's about teaching your brain that movement, no matter how small, matters. Most people wait until they hit some massive milestone before they feel allowed to feel proud. But that mindset is toxic. It keeps you chasing something undefined. It burns you out, and it robs you of joy along the way. If you're only allowed to celebrate when you're at the finish line, you're going to miss the fact that you're actually becoming someone stronger every single day. You don't build a great life in one leap. You build it brick by brick. You build it through effort, decisions, and mindset shifts that happen in small, often unseen moments. The truth is, no one sees when you choose to get out of bed when you feel like giving up. No one claps for you when you keep your promises to yourself in silence. But those moments matter. They are the foundation of your self-respect. And if you keep ignoring them, if you keep telling yourself it's not enough, you will begin to believe that you are not enough. You must change that story. You have to start seeing yourself clearly, not based on what others recognize, but based on what you know you're building. Start by honoring one win today. Maybe you said no to something that drained you. Maybe you finally showed up for something you'd been avoiding. Maybe you just made it through a tough hour without quitting. That counts. That's a win. And if you don't treat it like one, your mind will forget that it happened. Then you'll look back on your week and say, I didn't do anything, when in reality you did many things. You just didn't value them. This isn't just motivational fluff. It's how the human brain works. Every time you acknowledge a win, you fire a signal in your brain that says, that action matters. And the more often you do that, the more your brain wants to repeat that behavior. That's how confidence is built. Not in big, loud victories, but in the small, quiet ones that you decide to notice and appreciate. Don't wait for someone else to notice what you're doing. Don't rely on applause or validation. Give that to yourself. Write your wins down. Speak them out loud. Feel them in your chest. And don't say, well, it's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal, because every small win is a promise kept. Every win is momentum. Every win is proof that you're moving, even when it feels slow. And you know what? Most people don't quit because it's hard. They quit because they don't see progress. And they don't see progress because they're not measuring progress. If you only look for big changes, you'll miss all the real change that's happening. You'll miss the fact that you're thinking differently, that you're reacting more calmly, that you're taking care of yourself in ways you used to ignore. Those are the signs of transformation, and they're happening whether or not the world claps for you. So start clapping for yourself, not in arrogance, but in truth, in honor, in recognition of the inner work you're doing. Because the longer you ignore your progress, the more frustrated you become. And frustration without awareness becomes self-doubt. That's when people start to spiral. That's when they say nothing is working. When in fact, everything is working, they just haven't learned to track the right signs. This is your job now. Become a student of your own growth. Look at how far you've come. Document it. Celebrate it. Stop moving the finish line every time you get close to it. Stop telling yourself you don't deserve to feel proud unless you've done something massive. You do deserve it. You deserve to feel proud every time you take one step forward. Because without those steps, there is no journey. Without those wins, there is no breakthrough. And here's something you need to hear. Some days, getting out of bed is a win. Some days, choosing patience is a win. Some days, not reacting the same way you used to is a win. Don't discount those moments. They are signs of strength. They are signs that you are evolving. And if you can begin to honor those wins, really feel the meaning in them, you'll find yourself more motivated, more energized, more willing to keep going. Why? Because progress that's acknowledged is progress that multiplies. It grows. It builds on itself. And eventually, those small wins stack up into something undeniable. That's how people change their lives. Not in one big moment, but in 100 small ones that they decided to treat as valuable. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to grow. You're here to get better. You're here to become who you were meant to be. And you can't do that if you're constantly skipping over the very actions that are shaping you. So slow down, pause, reflect, and say to yourself, yes, that was a win. That mattered. I'm proud of that. This one shift in mindset will change everything. You'll stop waiting for life to validate you. You'll stop beating yourself up for not being bearing ahead. You'll start building self-respect, one choice at a time. And when you have that, when you know in your gut that you're honoring your progress, no setback can break you. Because you'll know that even when the world is quiet, you are showing ahead, and that is enough. So here's what I want you to do tonight. Before you go to sleep, write down 3 wins from today. Any wins. Don't judge them. Don't downplay them. Just acknowledge them. Do that again tomorrow and the next day. Build the habit. Make it a ritual, because those small victories, they're your fuel. They're your evidence. They're your reminders that you are not standing still. You are moving forward, one step at a time, and that deserves to be honored.